Twice a week, this van drives into a shabby tenement block in the East End of London. The van carries food. It travels past rows of tiny apartments and heads towards a flat in the corner of the block. There are willing hands for this consignment. Inside the flat, there's a shop, and it sells the cheapest food in the district. Threepence off the veg, pennies off the beans. A recent special offer was £2 of sugar for 5p. On the Haggerston estate in Hackney, they created a do-it-yourself co-op. Last October, a few local residents raised £100, bought food in bulk from a cash-and-carry warehouse and sold it here without a profit. They then stocked up with food again. For the past 8 months, more than 100 housewives have bought their weekly groceries here.
I mean, if I come down here Friday now, I can buy just as much here for maybe £2.10, while I'd spend nearly £4 over the shop. It's much cheaper.
This shop can trade without a profit because the residents who run it don't pay rates or rent. The staff are volunteers. The flat was given to them as a community centre by their landlords, the Greater London Council. A few yards from the block, other G.L.C. tenants, traders in a shopping centre, were concerned to learn that their customers had opened a shop of their own. The traders must pay rates, rent and staff. They need profits to live. The community co-op with no overheads was able to undercut their prices. From inside the baker's shop, a campaign began to put the competitor out of business. A big beefy baker called Jack Norman led the traders' attack.
I mean, it's the whole principle of the subsidised shop by the same landlord, incidentally, as we have. Let them take one of the empty shops across the road, pay rent, pay rates and pay labour. And then, I mean, nobody's afraid of competitive trading.
But it wouldn't work then?
Precisely.
So you don't really want it to work?
I don't want the subsidised food subsidised by the borough and the G.L.C. Retail trader, the small fella like myself, we've already taken a pretty good shellacking from the supermarkets. I mean, this is just another nail in the coffin.
This weekend, the housewives have been collecting signatures on a petition to try and save their co-op. The G.L.C. have demanded that it stop trading for good. The snag was the G.L.C. didn't know their flat had become a shop, and when the council found out, it was decidedly not amused.
We've had complaints from our lessees of our shops, with whom, of course, we had contracts over a number of years, in fact, quite a long time. Many of them are old tenants of ours. They think that this trading, they call it trading, is undercutting their livelihood.
But in the block itself, it's not as simple as that. Here, the shop was more than a shop selling food on the cheap. The agitated traders didn't understand, the G.L.C. didn't realise that in this concrete estate, the little corner co-op actually created a community. In the past, the block seemed to be used as a transit camp for the homeless, the unemployed, the poverty-stricken, and the social misfit. Many were not rehoused. They were simply stuck here and forgotten. Racial tension began because in recent years, some of the problem families were black. The police constantly patrolled the estate. It was a violent community, unhappy, dissident, lacking respect for itself. What do you think of the community who live there?
Well, I don't think they want to help themselves. I think they're just happy the way they are. I don't think they'd want to be any better than they are, most of them anyway, the majority of them.
Do they have a reputation in the area for being sort of outcasts of the community?
Yes, I'd say so, yes.
What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, they do. I mean, the place is filthy. You know, they never bother to clean it. Kids run around scruffy. Nobody wants to know them.
But they weren't equipped to help themselves. That's why the shop became so vital. A year ago, a welfare worker came into the estate, and with the help of some residents, he tried to create a community spirit where previously there had been none. The trouble was actually getting the people together. Then came the little co-op, and things began to happen.
I mean, when I came here last September, the atmosphere is absolutely dead.
And what's it like now?
Well, it's far more sort of together, you know? The feeling is completely different. People are sort of coming in and they're telling other people their problems, and they're coming into the shop and they're talking to each other. And, they're uniting.
But people seem more helpful as well, you know. People are more helpful, you know, towards each other. And we meet in here, you know, there's meetings held, and we seem to have more come closer together, you know.
What does that mean to a place like this?
It means a lot.
A terrible lot.
Together, they began to face some of the problems of life. The shop was the hub, as important to them as a marketplace in an ancient town. Then came Mr. Norman, the traders, the G.L.C. and the law. The marketplace must shut.
Well, I think it's bloody disgusting, because we've got together to try to do a little something for the community, and a man like that comes along and tries to have the shop closed down. And the G.L.C. seem to take notice of a man like that who's nothing to do with the estate. And yet, when you want to get something done in your places where you live, you just can't get it done.
Now that you have basically, by your action, effectively destroyed the shop, don't you stand a risk of being responsible for actually destroying the community spirit as well?
No, now that you destroyed the shop, I haven't destroyed the shop. I've stopped an illegal enterprise, as far as I'm concerned.
Bylaws and the law exist, whether we like it or not, and we must, as a big authority with 200,000 houses under our control, we can't afford to do wrong things that are seen to be wrong by our own tenants.
You couldn't just turn a blind eye to one shop?
We couldn't turn a blind eye to anything that might set a precedent. No, I'm afraid we could not.
The cheap food rows on the surface. It seems to these people that the local shopkeepers, the G.L.C. and the majority of the British are all members of a cosy club. Here, they're trapped in the block outside it. Yet something may be salvaged here, because that shop lit a spark. Those social misfits have now found that they have at least each other to lean upon for help.